Most families let the week happen to them. Monday morning hits like a freight train. Work schedules collide with school events. Soccer practice conflicts with church activities. Random invitations pile up. And before you can even catch your breath, your calendar is packed solid. And you're just reacting, scrambling, and surviving. But here's the critical problem: if you don't intentionally design your week, it won't reflect your family's mission. Instead, it'll reflect everyone else's priorities, your boss's urgency, your kid's friend's schedule, society's expectations. You'll be busy and you'll be exhausted. And worst of all, you'll be completely off mission. But today, I'm going to show you how to build a weekly family planning framework, a simple but powerful system that keeps your time aligned with your values, protecting your precious margin, and creates space for what actually matters most. This isn't about becoming rigid, it's about becoming more intentional. This is Fulfillment Frameworks. Let's get building. Hi, I'm Michael Loftmiller. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm a husband and a father, probably a lot like you. I have 5 kids at home, a wife that I absolutely adore, and a life that's been anything but predictable. Over the past decade, I've had to discover through success, through spectacular failures, through faith and family chaos, a set of frameworks for living that actually hold up under pressure, systems that provide for my family, create genuine meaning, and prevent total burnout. You see, we've just spent a couple years overseas doing mission work with our whole family, kids included. Incredible experience. It was stretching, exhausting, and life changing. But now we're back. We're rebuilding from scratch, buying a house, establishing new rhythms, starting fresh. So everything we're doing now, every framework I'm teaching, we're actually using and testing every day in real time. And here's my mission: I want to help you design a deeply fulfilling life that doesn't leave you ragged, burnt out, or ironically, sacrificing the very people you're working to serve. Because here's the tragic paradox: most of us are working ourselves to death for the people we never get to see. We're building financial security while eroding relational intimacy. We're providing everything except for presence. That ends here, and that ends now. All right, quick recap. In episode 1, we established the principle of first things, defining what truly comes first in your life. And then in episode 2, we built your family mission statement, your compass for unified direction. In episode 3, last week, we tackled time thieves and learned how to reclaim stolen hours through simplification and smart systems. And now today, episode 4, we're integrating everything into a practical weekly rhythm called the Weekly Family Planning System. Think of this like a board meeting for your family, except way more meaningful and way more fun. This is where your mission statement meets your calendar, where your values become visible in your schedule, and where intention defeats chaos. Without this framework, all the previous episodes remain good ideas that never get implemented. With it, you have a systematic way to ensure your weeks actually reflect what you say matters most. So let's build it. Here's the uncomfortable truth: if you don't plan your week proactively, you'll always feel like you're behind. Life has momentum, calendars fill themselves, urgent demands crowd out important priorities, and before you know it, you're living reactively instead of intentionally. When I first started working, I forget what it's called, but there's this rule or law or whatever of work that says, you know, the work will fill the time allotted to it or given to it. Uh, and I feel like that's true for our families with our calendars, while we're living so reactively, is we're letting our calendars be empty, which is not a bad thing, but we're not scheduling the emptiness. All right. So what happens is you wake up Monday morning already stressed because you don't know what's coming, or maybe you do, and your schedule's already jam packed. You realize Wednesday evening that you haven't had a real conversation with your spouse all week. And I'm not talking about like logistics of who's getting this kid, who's taking that kid to what practice, what time's this, has this bill been paid, we gotta get groceries. Like, I'm not talking about that. That's not that's just roommate talk. That's not real conversations with your spouse. All right. And then you get to Sunday night and you think, oh my goodness, where did the week go? And then guess what? You're going to do it all again. And that's the cost of reactive living. But when you sit down as a family and plan the week intentionally, several things shift. All right. And before we get to those shifts, let me remind you, if you have small children like I do, okay, they're probably not going to pay attention or take it seriously or things like that. We talk about that with our family mission statement episode. So, however old they were making the family mission statement should probably be sitting down and helping to plan the week. They don't have to be there the whole time. You can get their input about their things, real quick, and then they can go off and play, do whatever. But just keep in mind, you should sit down as much as possible as a whole family, but depending on kids' ages and circumstances, you may not be able to every week. And that's okay. Because remember, these are frameworks. This is not a rigid guideline. These are ways of thinking. These are systems that you can use to adapt to different rhythms. Right? Now, let's talk about the shifts. Shift number one, you take control instead of being controlled. You're designing your week around your mission instead of surviving everyone else's demands. Shift number two, you create anticipation instead of anxiety. When everyone knows what's coming, there's excitement instead of dread. Kids look forward to planned activities, spouses can prepare for busy seasons, and there's clarity instead of chaos. And let me tell you, one of the best things about this shift I've seen personally in the last few years is whenever I shifted to working more from home, is seeing for myself and the kids when my wife planned out their school day. We homeschool our kids, and when they know what's coming, they may not like it. No, there's nothing in here saying that they're going to love it. I mean, there's excitement instead of dread, but there's not always is there excitement. Let's be honest. But what I saw with my kids is there's not really that dread. There's not really the, do I have to? Once they know what the routine is, like they just go and they do the routine. They don't really drag their feet or whatever. I'm not going to say they look forward to the planned activities of homeschool every time, but it's much easier than just like, oh, today we're going to homeschool from 9 to 10, tomorrow from 1 to 3. Like, having it planned and the kids to know what's happening. Same thing for their sports schedules and stuff like that. Is definitely helpful to know what's coming so you're not kind of like caught surprised. So just a little anecdote for you guys. Shift number 3, you protect what matters most. Okay. Family dinner doesn't just happen if there's time left over. It gets scheduled and protected. So for the longest time, our family dinner was on Fridays because I finished work and we had a long weekend. I finished work on Thursday. I had 4 10s, and then we spent Friday kind of like cleaning up and taking care of things and prepping for our rest day on Saturday. And so to start the rest day on Friday night, we had family dinner, family hangout night, movie night, game night, whatever. So we had it scheduled. It's like one of the first frameworks things that we did years ago. And then it shifted over time to it was Saturday for a little bit, and then Sunday, then back to Saturday. And now, based on our schedule, it's actually on Mondays. We try to have more than one family dinner, obviously, during the week, but that is the one that's just like, this is what we're doing at our home or wherever we're staying at, and at these times, and like nothing's going to impact it. Sometimes, family dinner, you might go out or you're somewhere else and you grab something on the way back. That's fine. Right? I mean, it's not ideal, but that's fine. At least have one family dinner, if not 2 a week, that is scheduled and protected. That somebody says something to you on your phone, you're like, well, let me check my schedule. Sorry, I can't do that. Family dinner time. You don't have to tell them, just like, sorry, I'm not available then, right? Another thing about protecting what matters most, Sabbath rest. Sabbath rest doesn't get squeezed out by last minute obligation. It gets blocked out and honored. Again, what I just said, after our family dinner night, that led into our Sabbath time. Now, family dinner is part of Sabbath. It's the end of the Sabbath day. you've probably felt it yourself of, oh, we've got ball games and we got travel ball and this and that. And you're going around all over the place and you don't actually feel rested. Or I know for me, whenever I was working, Monday through Friday, I'd come home and Saturday would be just filled with chores, things to do around the house, which is fine. Like, that's just part of living. And then Sunday had church and other things going on. And, by Sunday night, it's like, I'm not even sure I got rest this week. I'm not sure I had Sabbath time. Because Sabbath is resting from your normal work, things that tire you out. You should have some rejuvenation. And so just about, protecting what matters and making sure those things are blocked off and honored. And then probably I'd say these three things are probably the most important things to block off. The next one is date night with your spouse. That doesn't get postponed indefinitely. It gets planned and prioritized. This is the one that we definitely have a problem with, that we have to work harder with. My wife, she works currently 12-hour shifts 3 days a week, plus our family dinner only leaves 4 other days, but one of those is church. Now we're down to 3 days. And because we are in the process of rebuilding our life from scratch and finding a house and doing all these other things, it's been difficult to find a consistent day. And maybe we just have to give that up. And maybe it's not a consistent day. Maybe, we have to just schedule every week, which is what we'll talk about later in this episode of, all right, well, maybe on Sundays we schedule out the week. This week, date nights on Tuesday. Next week might be on Thursday. Who knows? All right. But the point is, you got to schedule it out. All right? And for me, I do like a little bit of rigidity. And so sometimes it's hard for me not to have it like every Tuesday. Anyways, let's move right along. Shift number 4. You spot conflicts before they create chaos. All right. So instead of discovering Tuesday morning that you have 3 commitments at the same time, you actually identify those problems on Sunday when you set out to plan your week, and you solve them proactively. So instead of scrambling Thursday evening because nobody plans dinner that night, you're already prepped and know what's exactly coming. Now, again, life happens. It throws you curveballs. It's okay. It's not going to be perfect. We're not perfect people. Our systems aren't going to be perfect. But this is to free up as much time for what matters as possible. Okay, it's not about being perfect. Remember that for all these frameworks, it's not about being perfect. It's about having a system of navigating life. Okay, and in particular for this one, this isn't about filling up every hour with activities. Okay, we don't want that jam pack. We talked about it last week. We don't want things back to back to back, because let's do it this way: if things are back to back to back, if one thing falls, all the other dominoes fall. Okay, so we don't want that. If anything, what I like to do on days I have like a lot of meetings for work, I like to schedule about 15 minutes in between my meetings, not only for like prep time and debrief time, note taking time and stuff like that, but just in case like a call has to happen. My wife needs me, my kids need me, something shifts around, and then maybe another meeting gets done early. I don't jump into something else. Like, I just wait for the rest of the schedule to come to me. That way I have more wiggle room for things to happen. All right. Because this is about ensuring that the most important things actually happen. Quality family time, faith formation, rest, meaningful work, and margin for spontaneous moments, just to name a few. So weekly planning transforms you from a victim of your calendar into the architect of your life. And that shift, man, is that everything. So what we really need is consistency is everything with weekly planning. All right. You need a predictable time and place that becomes sacred to your family rhythm. Now, I did say for like date nights and stuff, that's kind of hard, but you need to have it for family planning. Otherwise, it won't get done, and then everything's been for naught. Okay. We try to do hours either on Sunday afternoon after lunch when the kids are resting, the younger kids who don't participate are resting, or Sunday evenings. That's when we used to do it. But now that my wife is working a lot on Sundays, we're trying to do it either Sunday evenings when she gets home, so we don't have to think about it on Sabbath, or Monday night when Sabbath and everything's done and we're heading into our week. Um, we're still working on that. It's just the rhythm we're trying out. We'll probably change it. So, but that's okay. So now what that helps us with is the kids know it's family reset time. All right. So we try to gather around the dining room table with the older kids, sometimes with snacks, sometimes not. We'll have like notebooks, whiteboard. We'll do different things um, depending on how people are feeling and everything to uh, to work it out. My wife almost always has a notebook calendar like combo thing. That's just her style. That may not be your style, and if it's not, that's fine. Uh, so the reason we used to do Sunday is because it worked well. It was a natural transition day. Okay, we were shifting from our Sabbath, rest time on Saturday to and like having weekend stuff. That's winding down on Sunday evening, and that means the weekend's winding down, and so then the week is about to start. Okay, but as we're gonna have to change that up. That's why maybe for now we're gonna try Monday nights. But pick whatever works for your family's rhythm. If you know you guys go to it's fall right now, and a lot of high school sports are going on. Football on Friday nights. So if you go as a family to watch the local football team every Friday night, then maybe you do it on Thursday. You can start off and okay, we have tomorrow's whatever Friday holds plus the football game that evening, and then that starts our weekend. So maybe you do that so that over the weekend you don't have to worry about anything, you don't think about anything, everything's planned out. You go through your weekend and you come back and you're good to go to start the next week. Point is, pick whatever works for your family's rhythm. Some families do Saturday mornings. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I don't really like cartoons anymore. They're not as great as they used to be. But a lot of people are free or the freest on Saturday mornings, maybe the clearest head after they've had some breakfast or something. Some do it Sunday afternoons instead of evenings. Some do it Fridays. It doesn't matter. Okay. All that matters is you pick a time that works for your family's rhythm. But the key here is to make it consistent and non-negotiable. All right. Consistent doesn't mean you do it Sunday this week, Sunday next week, Tuesday the next week. Okay. Consistent means you do it on the same day for like 6 to 8 weeks. And if it's not working, then you change it. All right. You don't change it after a couple times because it takes a few times to kind of, loosen up and make it a habit. Right. So, like, you got to give it a shot and it's going to be non negotiable. Okay. This isn't something that you do when you feel like it or when schedules align perfectly. All right. This is a weekly discipline. You make your schedules align perfectly because you schedule it out. Okay. And that weekly discipline creates the structure that you need and everyone else needs for life to work well. And you don't need fancy tools. All right. All these like productivity apps and stuff. Sorry, my nose is itchy this morning. You don't need any of these fancy productivity tools or calendars or whatever. All right. A notebook will work. A shared Google Calendar will work. A whiteboard will work. You don't, it doesn't have to be fancy. Like literally, like you could just like, you know, write it on the wall if you had to. All right. It doesn't have to be fancy. All that matters is that it's effective, that you have an effective planning session. All right. And so that can literally just be paper and pencil, not even in a notebook, loose leaf paper. Okay. I was trying to find a piece. I thought I had a piece of loose leaf paper on here. I was going to hold it up and flick it around. Anyways, that's not professional. And, I try to be at least somewhat professional because the power isn't in technology. It's in the consistency and the intentionality of gathering together regularly to align your week with your mission. So pick your time, pick your place, and make it sacred. And so right now, I'm going to give you our framework, right, when we have our planning session. Okay. It's proven to be pretty effective and helpful. We may change it up again. All these frameworks are subject to change for what works for you, your life, your rhythm. This is just an example, that you can start when you're like, I don't know where to start. This is just an example for you to use and then you change it up how you want to. All right. If you need to just do this for a while until your brain like adjusts to thinking this way, that's fine. The point is, it's a rhythm for your life. Make it yours. Okay. So step one, review the mission statement. All right. So start every session by reading your family mission statement out loud. It's not ceremonial. It's foundational. Okay. It reminds everyone why you're planning, what you're aiming for, and what lens you're using to evaluate decisions. Okay. So we are a family who puts faith first, serves others, and builds each other up. Whatever your statement is, let it set the tone for the entire planning conversation. So now step two, look back. It should take you about 5 minutes. All right, so spend 5 minutes reviewing the previous week. Ask two simple questions. One, what worked well? Two, what didn't work well? Pretty simple, right? So celebrate the wins. Like this is you guys talking about, not just writing it down, but talking about it. So celebrate the wins. Give people high fives. Okay. Maybe you had family dinner for 4 nights. You know, we said we scheduled one for sure. Maybe you were able to have 4 family dinners. Okay. Maybe the kids completed their chores without you having to nag them or them without them going, oh, do I have to? All right. Maybe you protected Sabbath rest for the first time in a long time. All right. Whatever you did, that was a win, or whatever the kids did, that was a win. Celebrate it. Acknowledge what was aligned with your mission. All right. Then you're going to identify the bottlenecks. Okay. Maybe Tuesday was chaos because of conflicting schedules. Maybe meal planning fell apart Wednesday because somebody was sick or something, or this happens a lot in my house. Some kid got into this thing, and then some other kid got into this thing, and now you don't have the ingredients or the leftovers or whatever you were planning to serve. And what do you do then, right? Or maybe you stayed up too late scrolling, and now you're grumpy all week or the next day. You know, maybe you had too high expectations still as you're transitioning from your old way of thinking and doing things of jam pack your schedule to the new way. There's gonna be some tension there. So maybe some of that tension came up if you want to do stuff and then the new schedule, and it just caused some problems and made you a little frustrated, upset. Whatever it is, it's okay. This isn't about guilt. It's just about learning. All right. One thing I took from my time working with some bigger corporations is you don't want to do bad, obviously, but it's more about learning why the bad thing happened. Because if you can learn why it happened, then you can work on going from the bad over to the good. If you just get punished all the time for something bad happening and you don't ever know why it's considered bad or why it's happening, you're just going to keep being punished and then you're just going to be burnt out. All right. So this isn't about feeling shame or guilt or anything. It's just about learning, okay, this was what worked well. This is what didn't work well. So how can I get more of what worked well? Right. So you're going to be iterating, you're going to be improving, building on what works and fixing what doesn't. All right. So step three, looking ahead, 10 minutes, maybe longer, just depending, all this probably is going to take longer when you first get started. But now we're going to be mapping out the coming week. All right. So get everything visible. This is why I like that my wife does the writing down. First off, she has much nicer handwriting than I do. I think most people would agree with that. But also because she keeps the paper calendar with her own notes and stuff. She does the grocery budget and all that kind of stuff like in her calendar. And people are the ones that talk to her about hey, come over for this thing or whatever. Like she needs the calendar on her at all times. So she pulls out her calendar. I'm just saying that's what works for us. And we just go through, day by day. Okay, well, what's going on Monday? Well, got to take the car in to get, looked at. Okay, how long is that going to take? I don't know, but I'm going to go at 9 a.m. Just assume I'm not going to be back till 11. Great. It's probably not going to take that long. If it is, then around 10:30, or as soon as I know it's going to be a while, I'll message her and be like, hey, this is going to be longer than I thought. So maybe you and the kids can come pick me up or whatever the deal is, right? But talking about the planning first, uh, 11 o'clock, maybe you're done by 9:45. Great. Now you got some extra flexibility. The point is, like, put that block around so that you're like, okay, well, I can't really do anything until this thing is done. Like, that's pretty important, right? You got work commitments. Okay, maybe you work from home, but on Wednesday and Thursday you got to go into the office where you have meetings at the office. All right, so map that out. All right, school events. If you're homeschooling part of a co-op or public school or private school, whatever the case may be, put down whatever school events. Okay, same thing for church events, and then any sports practices. Like, just go through the list, doctor's appointments, and that way at the start of the week, like, okay, well, if Timmy has a doctor appointment on Thursday morning, but then like on Wednesday the car is acting up, and Friday you're supposed to drive somewhere, well, you've got to take it in Thursday. And so it's like, how do you fit that around little Timmy's schedule? Well, if you don't have that scheduled out, for the whole week, then when that comes, you're just like, oh man, I don't know. Like, what's tomorrow? Oh, I forgot he has that appointment this morning. You're rushing around Thursday morning, and it's just chaos. Okay. So make sure you write it all down. Okay. And use whatever system that works. Again, digital calendar, fine. Paper planner, fine. Whiteboard that you erase every week, fine. Okay. The system, like, specifics don't matter. What matters is that you actually use it. Okay. The key is getting everything out of your head and onto something that everyone can see. This is where you spot potential conflicts before they become crises. My wife, to bridge our gaps, she started using color coded pens because I wanted to use Google Calendar and just have like a tablet that's like in the kitchen or near the homeschool area, just like a nice big tablet that you can see the calendar at all times, and that you can just go in there and you can update stuff. She didn't like that because she just likes pen and paper better, which is fine. Um, I liked it because you could color code all your things, and so you knew, okay, well, green things were kid things, blue things were, for parents, and red things were like, you have to do this. Like, anyways, so now she basically takes that same idea and she just uses color coded pens on her planner to kind of work things out. And over time, of course, those things changed. Sometimes just down to preference, or there's some reason. But the point is, that system works for us. So find a system that works for you. Okay. Because you don't want to be like, oh man, Timmy has an appointment on Thursday morning, but I've got to get the car fixed on Thursday morning. And you don't have a way to do both. All right. Let's solve it now. Let's solve your calendar problem now, not on Thursday morning. So, step 4. Once you see everything, step 4, we're setting priorities. Okay. Probably another like 10 minutes or so. Once you see everything, ask the mission critical questions. Are family meals planned and protected? As for your mission, you should ask this question: which nights will we eat together? What are we eating? Who's responsible? Is it mom? Is it dad? Do the kids pick? Okay. Is family time scheduled? When's our weekly family activity? Is it on the calendar or just hoped for? Okay. Is Sabbath or resting time blocked out? What does it look like this week? When are we unplugging? When are we saying no to everything else? Are household responsibilities clear? Okay. Who's handling what? Who's doing the grocery shopping? Who's managing school pickups? Who's leading family devotion? This is where your mission statement becomes practical. Okay. And all these I just gave you are kind of examples from my own life of things that we work through. Because you're not just filling time, you're ensuring your values show up in your schedule. Now, step 5, last step: assign roles and responsibilities. Should take just a couple of minutes. Every family member that is a part of the conversation and is capable gets clear assignments. Okay, so kids get age appropriate chores and responsibilities. Again, if you remember from last time, not because they get paid, but because they belong to the family and contribute to the success. So I'm not going to tell my kid, run to Walmart to get something. Like, he's not 16. He can't he can't go to Walmart and stand across the street. That's not age appropriate. But I can tell him, hey, take the trash out every day. Or hey, you need to do this thing. He likes to, and he's pretty good at helping cook. So it's like, hey, why don't you help mom cook dinner, family dinner this night? Okay, cool. You know, just stuff like that. Just some more examples. Okay. Because as I've said before, we don't do traditional allowances here in our house. Contributing to your family isn't a job that you get compensated for. It's just part of growing up. It's part of belonging and part of learning responsibility. And again, if the kids want to earn some extra money for something special, they can come up and propose something extra. Like, hey, dad, I'll trim those hedges for $10. Or hey, mom, I'll do the laundry for $15 because normally the laundry's a mom and dad thing, not a kid thing. That's just the way we have it broken out. Now, once they get older, laundry may be off the table for them to negotiate on. All right. So, anyways, they come to us and then we negotiate fair compensation. And then we, as the parents, divide the bigger responsibilities. Who's doing grocery shopping? Thankfully, grocery pickup. Oh, so good. We do that a lot. That's super helpful. We don't have school pickup to worry about because we homeschool, but maybe you gotta worry about who's picking the kids up from school on which days, and who's leading the family devotion, or who's planning an outing that week for the whole family, or whatever it is. Just assign those responsibilities to the parents, the bigger ones that really parents can only do. And so once people have clear roles and clear responsibilities, it eliminates confusion and reduces the mental load on everyone. So some things might need to stay relatively the same, like school pickup. Okay. Because I know for some people like me, if I'm doing school pickup randomly from time to time, there's probably going to be a day where I forget or I'm extremely late because it's not my usual thing. And as I'm doing my other tasks, if I don't set an alarm reminder or something, I'm going to forget. Okay. Now, step 6, it's optional. I know I said there's 5-step process, but step 6, for those who share common faith practice, as I do, pray and just commit the plans to the Lord, because who knows only He knows, I should say, what's going to happen during the week. Okay. So in every planning session with a prayer, ask for wisdom for the week ahead, and unity for when conflict arises, and grace when plans don't work perfectly, because guess what? They're probably not going to work perfectly. This isn't just a spiritual tradition, it's practical. It reminds everyone that our family operates under God's authority, not just personal preference. It creates accountability beyond just human willpower. And then you commit doing it. Everyone knows the plan, everyone's agreed to the plan, and everyone owns their part of the plan. They don't have to like it, but they know it, they agree to it, and they own their part of the plan. So now you're ready. Okay, quick little section for making it work with kids. Okay, if weekly planning feels like a boring business meeting, the kids are going to fight. They're going to resist, and it's probably going to fail. So let's talk about some ways to keep it engaging and age appropriate for them. All right, so if at all possible, keep it short, or at least their section short, okay? 30 minutes maximum. I would probably say, depending on the age of your kids, maybe 15 minutes, okay? Simply because all kids have limited attention span, okay? And frankly, most of the planning doesn't require hours of discussion, and most of the planning doesn't require their input, right? Because they don't know probably when they have doctor's appointments. They don't know when football practices or whatever. Okay. So involve them. If you need to, do kind of like 2 little sessions. Do a mini kids session where you're talking to them about things that affect them, and then you bring that into the larger session between you and your spouse. You can use incentives, having snacks, during planning time, or some special dessert afterwards when you're done. It creates a little positive association instead of dread when it comes to these planning missions. Some people call it bribery. I call it effective living. Take your pick. But most importantly is you want to give kids ownership. Okay. Let them have some kind of say, or even full out plan one meal for the week and let them help cook it. All right. Let them suggest a family activity and let them set one personal goal. So something that we used to do when the kids were younger and life was easier is every night somebody would be somebody's pick night. If we weren't busy doing something, it's like, okay, Monday night, you get so and so, you get to pick. Do we play a game? Do we watch something? Whatever. Then life got kind of busy and they started getting older and all they would do was watch stuff. And it's like, okay, well, like that's okay. But then like, preferences started showing and people started disengaging. So it's like, it's not fulfilling our mission statement. So we had to readjust our family activity that we let them suggest. And now pretty much all family activities, it's like we've got to have a majority. Okay. Because if we don't have a majority, then the majority of people are not going to do it. And it's just going to be a zoo and chaos. And the point is for us to come together. Okay. Because here's the point. This is what I've seen from homeschooling and other things. When they have input, they have investment. I mean, even think about yourself, like at work or somewhere. If somebody values your input into what you're doing, how much more likely are you to actually get it done? All right. So it's no different with the kids. Next, make it interactive. This is where a whiteboard comes in handy. And this is why I mentioned a whiteboard before. Okay. Use a whiteboard where kids can write their activities because we homeschool, we have actually small individual whiteboards. So we can just pass them out with markers and let the kids write their own activities right there and we show them and then we can combine it all together. Okay. We've got, magnet markers on a calendar that you can use like when I say markers, not markers you write with, but like the little circle magnets that you put in the fridge to keep stuff on there. You can put those on the whiteboard. So it's like color coded per kid, different things. Anything, physical engagement wise creates mental engagement. Okay. And then celebrate their contributions. When a kid suggests a great idea or takes responsibility seriously, acknowledge it publicly. I know I've seen my oldest kid. He loves it whenever he has a great idea, and like we're not like, oh, that's cool, like, but like legitimately, like, dude, that's a good idea. Let's have that for dinner, or let's go do that thing, Or he's like, no, I'm gonna take out the trash every day, or I'm gonna help mom with cooking the food and doing the dishes, and it helps that ownership and also like builds him up and give him a sense of accomplishment and pride. And then that creates that positive reinforcement that helps build in the behaviors that we want. And so maybe like me and you have some little kids. I got a 3 and 5 year old. All right. So start simple with young kids. All right. The 3 and 5 year old and probably the 7 year old doesn't need to be involved in budget discussions. Okay. But they can help pick what park we want to go to play on an off day or what story to read when we have family reading time together. Okay. Because if I could speak correctly, because the goal is teaching kids that family life isn't just something that happens to them. They're active participants in creating the life that you all share together. And this will serve them well later in life when they're out of the house, starting their own families, having their own jobs and lives and everything. They will have had a upbringing that shows them I can take control of my life, I can plan it out, and it can go a certain way. And it really depends on me for the most part. Okay. Because through all this, it builds responsibility, ownership, and family unity. So, systems that will support the weekly planning. So, weekly planning works best when it's supported by simple systems that eliminate daily decision fatigue. And we've always, the whole thing, fulfillment frameworks is all about simple systems. Because if you get a complex system, man, that thing's going to fall apart faster than it probably took to implement it. Simple systems are the goal. All right. So for the weekly planning, we talked about some of these last time. Meal planning systems. All right. During our planning session, decides on 5 to 7 meals for the week. Okay. Like dinners, I'm talking about. Lunches can be a little bit more repetitive. You can do like 3 days of PB&J, 3 days ham and cheese, and then a leftover day. Breakfast can be pretty standard. If you even eat breakfast, eggs and bacon, maybe some toast, maybe some biscuits, something. something pretty regularly throughout the week, and those can change up week to week. But the ones that we have found that, like, man, if you have it more than twice in a row, it's gonna be a lot of leftovers, a lot of complaining, especially from the kids. So that's why we try and plan out about 5 to 7 meals during the week. That way, leftovers will be lunches or other dinners, and so that makes shopping easy. So we use that plan. I've said before, we rotate through, or at least we're working on some that we can just rotate through. So it's just like, all right, well, we're doing, meal week 5. And so then we just go and boom, 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 reorder all this stuff for meal week 5 and what's in the pantry, take out this stuff. All right, we're good to go. Also, using slow cookers, man, has that been helpful? Slow cookers, when my wife and I both are busy doing work and we're having to trade off kids and stuff, that has saved us so many times. And meal prep when you have the time, not complete meal prep with everything like in its little containers and stuff, but just like simple things like chopping up veggies that you're gonna have with hummus throughout the week, or divvying out protein options that you're going to have. Instead of having like that big thing of hamburger, like divvying out for different meals, or like a big thing of chicken breasts or chicken thighs or something, like divvying out so that you don't have to worry about stuff later. All these things, it should just be simple. Okay. And then last, simple rotational menus, as I've already said, because the goal is to solve a dinner once per week, not every evening. Now, listen carefully. I said it's to solve it once per week. That doesn't mean eat it once per week. Okay. So solve the dinner issue once, not every evening, standing around not knowing what's available or whatever. Next up, a simple chore system. Create clear, age appropriate chores assignments that kids can execute independently. Post them visually, and check them during your weekly planning. Adjust as needed, obviously. Some examples for you little kids may be as simple as picking up their toys, putting them where they belong. Older kids, as I've said previously, taking out trash, helping with laundry, helping cook, helping do the dishes, obviously cleaning up the rooms, making their beds. Simple things that are appropriate for their age. As they get older, maybe they help mow the grass or wash the car. All right, just some ideas to get you thinking. Simplified wardrobes. I told you some of this was going to be from last week, okay? But it's not just your wardrobes, it's everyone's wardrobes. All right, when everyone's clothing choices are simplified to the basics that coordinate, your morning routine becomes faster and smoother. All right, not saying you can't have any special outfits, all right? Because certainly you can. This is about planning for the week, okay? So plan out for the week. Okay, here in this drawer are the clothes the kids need for the week. Okay, hang up in the closet is whatever special that they may need for whatever occasion that you get them out as needed. Okay, and during the family planning session, if you're like, oh, we've got this special thing coming up, well, do we have anything appropriate to wear based on the weather and da 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 da? Well, then go and check it out. Go to the closets or wherever and see if it's available or not. Next, protect margin. Always schedule one evening with absolutely nothing planned. It could be your Sabbath evening, could be the evening before Sabbath. It doesn't really matter. But just schedule one evening with nothing planned, okay? And guard it fiercely. This is your buffer for things that happen unexpectedly. Space for spontaneous family moments, and just breathing room when everything else gets intense. We actually really like to try and schedule hours halfway through the week after our planning session, just because it's halfway through the week, and it's giving some time for our plan to see if it's working or not. We've got to have catch up, or maybe we need maybe the week completely has not gone to schedule, all right, which sometimes happens. And so we've had to reevaluate and kind of readjust for the rest of the week. And it gives us time for like a mini second planning session for the rest of the week. Whatever it is, just pick a time and make it regular that you don't have anything planned at all. And again, these systems aren't restriction, guys. Right? They're foundations that make intentional living sustainable. Now, our faith integration. This practice of weekly family gathering has deep biblical roots. In the Old Testament, Israel had Sabbath as their weekly anchor, a rhythm of rest and realignment with God's priorities instead of human hustle. And Sabbath actually originated before the fall, before sin into the world, because it says that on the seventh day, God rested. So if God rested, even though he didn't need to, obviously, that's another conversation for another time. But if he rested to show us that example, we should probably do it, right? Uh, more of our hustle is not going to help. In the New Testament, the early church met weekly for mutual encouragement, instruction, and direction. Acts 2 describes believers gathering regularly to align their lives around shared mission. Your weekly family planning session serves the same purpose. Regular alignment with God's order rather than the culture's chaos. You're creating space for the Spirit to guide your family's direction instead of just reacting to external pressures. This isn't just time management and productivity, this discipleship. It's practical sanctification. It's training your family to live intentionally under God's authority. And that's what legacy actually looks like. So here is our week's assignment. Okay. Day 1 and 2. All right. So spend some time thinking, ruminate on it. All right. Choose your consistent time and place for weekly planning. Put on the calendar and make it non negotiable. Day 3 and 4. All right. Create a simple planning template. Write down the 5 steps, 6 optional, obviously. So review mission, look back, look ahead, set priorities, assign roles, and then pray. Then day 5 and 7, somewhere in there, actually hold your first weekly planning session. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it positive. Don't expect perfection on the first try. It's something new after all. Okay. This is a skill that will develop over time. What matters most is starting. Just get started. Just start building that momentum of doing it and staying consistent. After 1 month of weekly planning, you'll wonder how you'll ever lived without it. Well, maybe not a month. Depends on you and your family. I know for us, it took us a little more than a month, but now that we do it regularly, is super helpful. But guys, that has been episode 4 of Fulfillment Frameworks, your blueprint for life without burnout. Today, we learned why weekly planning is essential, when and where to do it, our 5-step, 6 optional framework, how to make it work with kids, and the systems that support it. Your assignment, schedule and execute your first weekly family planning session. All right. Now, next week in episode 5, we're diving into Sabbath as a system, how to build genuine rest into your weekly rhythm without guilt, how to protect it from cultural presence and pressure, and why this might be the most countercultural thing your family ever does. But before you go, 3 quick resources that are going to be down in the description. The first, if you have not already, please take the fulfillment assessment. All right. It will show you the areas of your life that you're doing good alignment wise and the areas that you're doing not so good. Okay. Next, grab the link for the fulfillment planner. All right. It's just a simple little PDF posted on Google Drive that you can download to help you plan out your weeks, your days, your months. Okay. And it's built around this planning framework and it's got some other things also built in. And then third, come join our Discord community where we're sharing our planning wins, our family mission wins, just all of our wins in general. We're getting support from one another and we're building others up and we're building with others because sometimes you are stuck at a roadblock and you don't know how you get past it, but somebody else has that perspective that you may need. All right. Last but not least, subscribe if you haven't already and share this episode with your spouse because weekly planning works best when both parents are committed. And remember our core principle. This isn't about doing more. It's about building the right frameworks. When you do that consistently, you create a deep, fulfilling life without the burnout. I'm Michael Loffmiller. Thanks for building with me. See you in episode 5.